Welcome, useful content community. Have you ever wondered what role employees play in your marketing? Well, you'll want to stick around this week because we are honored to have with us lifestyle content creator and social media manager Desiree Tizon. Or Tizon? Is it Tizon?
Tizon.
Tizon to talk with us about employee influencers.
Broadcasting live from Relate Studios in Trinidad and Tobago, it's the Useful Content Creation Show with your host, Juma Bannister.
And that was a classic case of overthinking things. Oh my goodness. This is the Useful Content Creation Show where business owners and entrepreneurs come to improve the content they create by educating themselves with useful strategies and tactics in marketing, business, and content creation. My name is Juma Bannister. I am your host, and I'm happy to be with you today. And remember, we are the Useful Content Community. And because we are the Useful Content Community, we own the bulb emoji. So throw your bulbs up just like that and drop your hashtag UCC Live if you're here right now. And if you're here on the replay, don't forget to drop your hashtag UCC Replay. And for those who are in my Facebook group, you know what to do. Drop your Learn with UCC hashtag. And we know that you are wrong. And for everyone else, you're welcome. I'm happy to have you. Today, I'm happy to introduce our very, very, very special guest who's going to teach us useful things on the role of employee influencers. Welcome to the show, Desi.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. Thank you for paying attention to my message on TikTok.
That's social listening. You know, every morning got to see what new comments come in and respond to them accordingly.
Right. Has anyone ever asked anyone on a show before based on TikTok? Have you ever been invited on that way?
Never on TikTok, so this is definitely my first time.
Oh, this is great. I mean, TikTok makes it really difficult to communicate.
Yeah.
And you kind of look weird when you come down in the comments and be like, hey, would you like to be on my show?
Yeah, it's definitely not the easiest platform.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Let me say hello to some of the people who are joining us. Good evening to Sarah Inglefield. Hey, Sarah, this is the first time you're here. Welcome to the community, Sarah. I'll see you tomorrow at the conference in person. And Kieran is here from the Facebook group, Live with UCC, that's right. And throwing up above. Excellent. I love that. You coming into the culture very, very quickly. All right, great. So Desi, people may not know who you are. Could you please tell them who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a social media manager with over 7 years of experience, whether it's with large Fortune 500 companies or smaller startups. But the way that I got to becoming a social media manager was actually I started as a lifestyle content creator and influencer. So I was trying to get my foot in the door at a marketing position at a really great company. And I thought to myself, I could build my own portfolio of working with brands and reaching out to people and being an influencer myself. And that's what really got me into the role and into the position that I am in now. I was just able to build a portfolio of me working with different brands. And now I kind of do a little bit of everything when it comes to social media, whether it's managing, strategy, and even just like filming, editing, doing everything on my own there.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff. What is your favorite platform to be on?
My favorite platform, I would say, is Twitter, just because it's where I feel my most authentic. I don't have to create for Twitter, and I've never had to create for Twitter. It's just been a conversation. And then, Instagram and TikTok and things like that.
Right, but you do YouTube as well?
I do. So YouTube, I've never had the time to fully dedicate into being consistent, but now I think I have that time. So I'm excited to get back started. I actually just posted a blog today.
I saw that. I saw you posted a blog. Hence my hence I knew about you literally repurpose the content across platforms. It was your boyfriend's birthday.
I do. So yeah, I feel like you work so hard to create content that you just have to make sure that you're optimizing it per platform. And I don't see a problem with, cross sharing it on Instagram and YouTube and all sorts.
And for those who don't know, what does a social media manager actually do?
So a social media manager basically manages the social presence of your brand accounts. So essentially, a lot of companies can see social media managers differently, whether they simply manage and there's content marketing teams that feed them the content that then goes on social media. You'll have some managers like myself, I've done this in the past, where I'm making the TikToks and you go to our brand page and I'm on the TikToks there because it's just easier and faster for me to churn those videos out. Your social media manager is also responsible for your social listening. So getting a sentiment of what's being said about your brand, sometimes even responding to customers, like if you write to a brand on Twitter with a complaint, they're the ones funneling that through their customer support teams and such. So a social media manager can essentially see everything about your social media presence. And I think it's really critical because in the age that we're in, a lot of people will go to your social media page before they go to your website just to, reach out to you or get that brand presence. So yeah, a lot of people think social media managers is a super fun job, which to a point it is, but it can be very serious when it comes to making sure that you're accurately and respectfully representing the brand.
Yeah, and people expect you to respond instantly on social media for some reason.
Yeah, they want you to respond right away. They want you to solve all their problems right away, and that's not going to be the same for every business. But if you are in a field imagine doing social media at an airline, especially with all the flight cancellations and things happening right now. That's something you have to stay on top of.
Yeah, that's fine. True. Let me just say good evening to Jared Best Mitchell. Hi, Jared. How are you doing? Thank you for jumping on. Yeah, and he's agreeing with you. Twitter is life, right? And it's so underrated. Thanks for your comments, Jared. I appreciate that. Thank you for turning up in your yellow. And what's up, Rollis? How are you going? And he's saying hi to Desiree as well. Thank you, Rollis, for jumping on. I appreciate that as well. I noticed in your content when you are doing content for a company and when you're doing content for yourself, it's a little bit different. I guess I guess working for corporate it's a little more structured. Is there a deliberate line in between the both of them?
I think it all depends on your brand's voice, and that's something that needs to be established along with marketing and not just the social media team. Because, for example, if your brand's marketing and your content is super formal, and then you have a social media manager that comes on and is very relaxed and they want to use a ton of emojis, there needs to be some sort of consistency between the way that you're representing your brand. So I would say I do come a little bit more polished, but also not too polished, because what I love about doing social media for brands is really humanizing them. Right. And when something looks too overproduced nowadays, I think people really appreciate something that looks a little bit more raw and real.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, and I saw you very poised. You seem very stately when, at least for that particular brand, I guess that's their brand voice.
Yeah.
That type of thing. All right, great. So now that people know you a little bit better, tiny bit better, we can move on to talk about the thing that we came to talk about today. But before that, I want to ask you the big question that I ask everyone who comes onto the show. What makes your content useful?
I think what makes my content useful is I'm constantly in the know and keeping up to date with just the various social media trends. I don't think anyone can truly name themselves a social media expert because platforms are consistently changing, algorithms are changing, and what worked even last year is not going to be the same thing that works now. So I'm always just adapting to whatever is being thrown at me across these platforms and then sharing it with people after I've demonstrated it for myself. So for example, I'll say, hey, I've tried this video format. Here are the results that worked for me, and here's what you can do to try it. I'm not just a news feed that's feeding the updates essentially.
Right. And have you found that it's the having to adapt to a new social media platform it takes you a long time, or is it something that is just based upon, or are they like just all the same in different places? Or do you have to like
I think it really varies because even myself, I was really hesitant to get on board with TikTok. And then the minute that I did, I found it pretty easy to get used to. And the growth that you see on that platform was a lot different than the growth that I've seen on Instagram, for example. So I would say the hardest part is more so like the functionality of things. You know, like even though Instagram has reels and TikTok has short form videos, their editing platforms are not going to be the same. And there's slightly things that you need to remember, like the position of your text can't cross this line on this platform, but on this platform, it can go in the middle. So I would say it hasn't been too hard, but as long as you get that resistance out of your head and you just jump in and try it, there's no one's going to tell you that you're doing something wrong. Just give it a try.
yeah, just the trolls. They're the only
Exactly.
people they are gonna tell you, yeah, you're doing it all wrong. But they're
Hmm.
like a gazillion TikTok
Oh, yeah.
gurus out there. So, just pick one. pick, pick one and do what they say until it doesn't work.
Yep.
All right, great. So let's talk about the whole topic of influencers. And specifically today, we're going to talk about employee influencers. But before that, you describe yourself as an influencer. Have you? Have you done that?
Yes, I
So,
have.
so what is an influencer? What are you as an
Yeah.
influencer?
So I would say there's a difference between a content creator and an influencer. They can both be the same thing, but they can often be separate. For example, an influencer, what I would say is someone that has established a community or through a platform that they're able to share, helpful content, helpful tips, whatever the case is, and it influences their community, hopefully in a positive way. A content creator maybe doesn't have a large following and maybe they just want to create videos and they like editing and they like photography and they can source that for brands to build that for them. So I combine a little bit of both. For example, a brand that I've worked with for 3-4 years now is Appleton Estate Rum. And so through as an influencer, but also as a content creator, I'll create a video of me making a recipe of something and then being able to share that on my platform that is also filled with other people who like to drink Appleton. So
Right.
I'm doing a little bit of both when it comes to just influencing and promoting the brands, but also creating the content for them.
Right. Do you think that someone always has to be a content creator before they become an influencer, or can someone set out to be an influencer from the get-go and say that this is what I'm going to be, even though they have no
Yeah.
community at that point?
I think you could be an influencer without being a content creator, but for me, creating the content is like half of the fun. The influencing part is like building the community, right? So maybe like you respond to all of your DMs and you comment and you reply to every single thing and your audience feels really connected to you, but maybe you're just not great at videography and you can hire someone if you had a project to do or something of that nature. So
Right.
I like to combine the two, but I definitely think it's possible to have each separately.
Yeah. True that. Let me say good evening to Sheik. Great, loving this. Great tips, Desiree. Thank you so much. And let me say good evening. Well, I said good evening to Sarah already, but Sarah says, well, Sarah's at the conference tomorrow. She herself is a brand strategy expert. I think that's what you call yourself, Sarah. I'll speak more to this tomorrow at the conference where social media managers and digital strategists help business zoom out from the minutiae of business operations and understand the big picture in terms of brand story, marketing strategy, and content strategy. Sarah knows her stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks for the comments, Sarah. I appreciate that. All right, so let's talk about employee influencers right now. Let's talk about the things that are that constitute that, and what is that exactly? Could you tell us what that is, Desiree?
So I get really excited to talk about employee influencers because it's something that has been right in front of our faces for so long, but so many companies just have never thought about it or ever even tapped into it. And
Mhm.
so essentially, say I work at a cruise line, say I own a cruise line, right?
Mhm.
I could find an influencer or a content creator and pay them and run
Mhm.
social media ads and do all of these things for them to promote my company. But say I have 10,000 employees, even if I had 1,000 employees, those employees already have an authentic connection to the company because they work there. They're probably a little bit more informed about the messaging. And whenever they do share messages about our company to their audience, they're going to pay attention to them because it's someone that they know. And they're like, okay, this is an employee of the company. So an employee influencer is essentially doing the same thing that a normal influencer would be, where they're influencing their community, but it's coming from an authentic source. I think we are so, we're kind of on autopilot now when it comes to social media ads or even influencers to a point. You know, there's sometimes I promote a brand and my audience doesn't really engage with it just because they know that it's sponsored. So when that messaging is coming from your employees, it's much more authentic. You're going to get higher brand reach. And I see that as a social media manager. I'll post a message on our LinkedIn, and then I'll have our employees post that same message, and the reach blows it out of the water. So that's really what tapping into your employee influencers means, is utilizing your authentic influencers that are already within your company. And you'll find that you're saving a ton of money compared to what you would typically spend on ads, in social media ads, and also with hiring actual influencers too.
Right. I mean, I have some thoughts. Let me just I have some real specific thoughts about this, because something just occurred to me about employee influencers. But before I ask you that question, let me just see what Sarah is saying there. Every one of us has an influencer in us of some shape or form, both offline and online. We should never forget that. And she said influencing is a natural gift, being able to lead conversations and trends. Content creation can be taught, in my opinion. It's true. It can be taught. It's true. And for Rollis, come on. Appleton has enough. I don't to hear that right. Why are you like that? Yeah, there's so there is the two things. So number one, the thought I had was, what danger is there in giving an employee the power to share company content? Well, not just company content, but about the company in their own way. I was thinking that is it on the lighter side, is it possible that they could be sharing the content with the target market, the wrong target market altogether, because it'll be consumed by their friends, their families, their network, and it might just fall flat? Is that there danger in that? And what other dangers might there be?
Yeah, so I'll answer kind of in reverse order. There's definitely that risk that you're not hitting your target audience. For example, like say you're a B2B brand and you specifically sell to the C-suite, right? Your employees' audience may not be filled full of C-suite folks, but we often neglect the internal cheerleaders that convince the C-suite to purchase a product. You know, like I was never a CMO, but when I was researching social media tools, I would go to my CMO and say, hey, I did all the research and this is the one that I think we should use. You know, so I think it's easy to often neglect that. And then when it comes to the dangers behind trusting your employees, I think trust and just creating a culture that promotes sharing is so important. When it comes to building an employee advocacy program, employee influencer program, for example, having those steps outlined in your your social media policy. What does your onboarding look like, where you're walking your employees through the tools that you have available to them? A lot of social media employee advocacy platforms will have a way for you to put exact messaging in the post, and your employees can just easily go in and share that to their network. So that way, you know, you're guiding them a little bit more on what you want them to say, but they can still say it in their own authentic voice. And this doesn't just apply to company content, but I think nowadays, for example, on LinkedIn, if you see someone writing a really great post and it has nothing to do with work, it has to do with like a passion project that they're doing or something related to their family, you engage with them, you can see where they work, you know, and that builds a little bit more trust. So if you see, oh, they do sales at this company, okay, noted. And later on down the line, you just start to build that brand awareness as a company. So it doesn't always have to be about company content, but it's just about getting your company out there through your employees.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. And I suspect that, you know, there are other, you humanize the brand in that way when people hear from people that they already trust. So it helps to humanize the brand faster. Yeah. But what do you say to people who will tell you that that is just exploitation, that companies are just using employees for their own benefit and the employees gain nothing from it?
Yeah, I think the critical part of employee advocacy is you're not forcing your employees to do any of this. And when you build a great company and a great culture, right? Your employees have great benefits. They feel supported in their role. They're doing, all the things for their employees that they would want to have done. Your employees naturally want to promote your company. I would say 2 companies ago, I worked somewhere called Ultimate Software, and they're now called UKG, but they were consistently a best place to work. And their slogan was people first, and they truly put their people first. Our benefits were insane, and I naturally wanted to talk about them. I'm still talking about them now, So I think when you really build that culture as a company, and you then provide your employees with the option to log on to an employee advocacy platform, it's like, great, maybe you have to remind me and you have to check in like, hey, don't forget to share X, Y, and Z, but no one is ever forcing me to do that.
Right. So it's really people who buy into the vision of the company that really hold on to it. Is there some reason why, if somebody's on board, they believe in the company, they believe in the mission, they believe in the vision of the company, they're really on board, they have the language right. Is there any circumstance where somebody seems right, but then they would not be allowed to share as an employee advocate or an employee influencer?
I would say 2 ways. Number one, just that employee's preference. Maybe they don't prefer to be on social media. They don't want to have a presence. To that, I would try to get them to see the importance of building your personal brand. For example, me being on this episode right now, this is great for my personal brand, right? And even if I wasn't talking about what I do for work, it's just getting me out there and the company that I represent. So personal branding is a huge piece, but I would say the second piece is if you work in a regulated industry, for example, banking or something, that your messaging and what you say about the company has to be approved by the marketing team.
Yeah.
I would say I've seen situations there where a program manager would draft a social media post, put it into the employee advocacy tool, and the employees can't change what that messaging is. So that's when it could come off a little bit more like, okay, here's the exact message that you need to say versus giving them that trust. But it's not because you don't want to, it's just the industry that you're in.
Yeah. My company tends to work with financial institutions, and what can I say? What can I say and what can I not say?
Yeah.
Let me just put it this way, that there are some guardrails that have been put in place for some businesses, because even though they want them to speak publicly and advocate or be an influencer, an employee influencer, there is some concern that someone may, not intentionally, but someone may go off the rails.
Yeah.
What systems do companies have, or what kind of company puts in place in order to, number one, prevent that from happening, and number two, if it does happen, kind of do some crisis control or something of that sort?
Yeah, that's where I would say less from a program manager. So when I say program manager, I mean the person running your employee advocacy program. At a lot of companies, that will be the social media manager. Unfortunately, they're doing 2 separate jobs, but they do flow into one another. But social listening is huge. So there's tons of social listening platforms out there where you can pull in any sort of keyword or mention about your company. So that's something that I would be checking consistently. I would have all of our employees, whether not necessarily their social media, but say they interacted with our brand often, they mentioned our brand, I'll see, okay, here's every time our employees mention us. So just staying on top of your social media listening is key, but also starting from the very beginning, like I said, establishing that in your social media policies so that they're clearly, understanding what they can or what they shouldn't do. And it's even better if you have executive leadership that's leading by example, and they're posting consistently on social media, and they're able to show the employees, a great example of what their post should look like.
Right. Should executives share on the company's page, or should they have their own personal page that they advocate on?
I'm a fan of them having their own personal page that they advocate on. I think a lot of times, if you were to go and do an experiment on your LinkedIn feed right now, how many posts do you see from real people versus the brands that you follow? And even if you follow a ton of brands, you're probably going to see more of the real people because there's a higher chance that you're going to interact with them because they are a human. So, if you had an executive posting from the brand account, that's probably not going to really get that same reach that they would if they were just posting from their own LinkedIn account.
Right, right. That's true. There's one person who I knew very well on LinkedIn, and I don't know where it was said. I think he may have said it on a podcast that he actually has a VA do the engagement for him. And when he said that, I lost all motivation to even comment on his stuff because I know it's just not him doing it. It's just
Exactly.
a VA from some other part of the world. I mean, all power to them, they're being employed, but
Yeah,
I don't want to. I want to talk to you. I kind of want to talk to
exactly.
you.
And your audience can tell. I feel like when they can see when you're being authentic and, a CEO is sharing maybe something that they did over the weekend with their family versus press release, blog, webinars, like just constant company content. That's not necessarily what being an employee influencer is either. It's just representing yourself and representing your company is just a positive of that too.
All right, let's look at this comment here from us, not from from us, but from the community. So Nicholas actually is one of my employees. He says employee talking ownership is gold, especially when it's authentic. Thank you, Nick.
Mhm.
I'm assuming you are talking about yourself and the company. Good comment. Um, well, I think you addressed this. Sarah had said earlier, is there any concern regarding controlling confidentiality of company information and the true experience of working there? Oh, that's a good question, actually. Like if what they have to say and what they're experiencing doesn't line up.
Yeah. And I think that's where taking a good audit of your company culture comes in hands because, you can't have terrible reviews on a place like Glassdoor and then ask your employees to talk about how great the company is. Are you doing regular employee surveys? So someone who manages an employee advocacy platform, while they might be your social media manager, they're going to be connected with employee comms, HR, because they need to really take a pulse of where the company stands with their employees to see, does this even make sense for employees and for us to encourage them to talk about us? Is what they have to say a positive experience? And when they do give you feedback, are you implementing that feedback or are you just gathering it just to say that you are? So it's definitely a team effort when it comes to building and promoting your employee influencers.
And so I would say that the ability to have employee influencers pivots upon the fact that the company culture is a healthy one.
Yeah.
And that people feel empowered not just from having the information perspective, but they feel
Mhm.
empowered by who the leaders are and what they stand for and their values and all those different
Yeah.
things. And when those two things line up, it's easier for them to talk about the company in a way publicly that
Mhm.
is positive. Would you say that? Would you agree?
Yeah, and also do your employees feel incentivized to share, right? Because I'm an influencer and I know I get paid to influence companies when I work with them. So if I work at a company, say I'm not in marketing, because I feel like marketers, it's your job to market the company, right? But say I work at a call center and I'm being asked to promote the company, what incentive is there for me? I might
Right.
love the company, but my job is very hectic and I'm on the phones all day. Maybe it's not the top of my mind to log onto LinkedIn and to share the latest company content. So are you incentivizing your employees, whether it's with bonuses or gifts or, department things that I've had, like we've had a department contest where we would see which department shares the most about during a certain period of time and they all won a party of some sort. So it's
Mm.
just the little things that can help your employees really get there.
Right, right. So you can set those things up to incentivize
Yeah.
employee influencers
Mhm.
and really give them the drive, I guess, the reward for going out there and actually doing something that
Yeah,
otherwise would not get done if they didn't do it.
exactly.
Um, you know. All right, so let's look at some of the questions. So Rollis is saying TikTok has a creator platform where the creator gets a negotiated rate, and we can add in a campaign. Do you recommend this for employee influencers?
So that's a really great question. I don't think there are a lot of companies using creator marketplaces for their employees per se. For example, a lot of employee influencer platforms will have like leaderboards. So an employee connects their social media accounts, however often they share, they increase on the leaderboard, and then the company incentivizes them through there. Sometimes that incentive can be monetary. Maybe, the top 10 shares get a bonus on their paycheck. I would say that's probably an easier way to navigate it through an official employee advocacy platform rather than going on the marketplaces of these social platforms.
Because I guess it becomes really sticky, especially if the employee is sharing it through their own personal account. Like, are you allowed to turn on monetization on this account?
Exactly.
It becomes weird, as like, are you getting paid in both places? Are you getting paid from the platform and then getting bonuses at your,
Yeah.
that could be a problem, I guess,
Yeah,
Have you ever had that happen? Somebody do that, or that's not a thing? That hasn't happened yet?
I just don't think I've seen that yet. And I don't think a lot of businesses have gotten used to I think the creator platforms on TikTok specifically are still pretty new. I want to say even today I saw a video from the head of Instagram that talked about their new creator marketplace. So those things are still in the beginning phases. It would be interesting to see if that develops over time into something that is catered to employees of businesses for sure.
What would you do if you were in that position as a CEO of a company? What would you tell your employees to do if they were on TikTok advocating for the company, being employee influencers? Would you tell them turn off monetization? Would you tell them don't run ads on their content? What would you say?
To be honest, I think that's a regulation question, right? Because, for example, if I'm as an employee promoting my company, when do I need to do hashtag ad? And when do I need to have the thing that says this is a sponsored post? Because if I'm getting paid by the company, but they didn't pay me for that video, there can be some FDA regulations. I don't know, FDA, I forgot the term, but yeah, I would have to look into what that actually looks like. I probably would stray away from it.
Right, you wouldn't.
Owner and just go the route of maybe using an employee advocacy tool specifically.
Right, and manage it that way.
Exactly, yeah. Because also the benefit of using an employee advocacy tool is then you get that data. So for example, you have 100 employees, they share a piece of your content on LinkedIn, you get to see the reach, the impressions, and the clicks. Versus if you were just allowing employees to do that on their own, you wouldn't be able to really grasp how that's comparing to something like your paid ads. So if you received 1,000 clicks, you can compare, okay, if I would have paid for a social media ad, it would have cost me X amount, but me doing it through an employee influencer program, I was able to save a ton more.
And when you say an employee influencer program, you simply mean a piece of software?
Exactly. So there are tons of different employee advocacy software tools that allow your employees to connect their social media accounts. You can feed them the content that you want them to share and the messaging, and then they're able to go in and easily just hit share, and it goes directly to their platforms.
Okay, so we have a question from Sarah. Sarah is asking, do you see this becoming a requirement for companies as time goes on, that employees are advocates and influencers externally, that is not optional?
I would say no, only because requirement to me means unless the employee grants this an automatic use of sharing. So for example, I don't think a company can tell an employee, you need to register your social media accounts through our company and approve for us to share these messages on your page. I don't see a way in which that happens for tons of data and privacy reasons. But I do see a world in which maybe companies are incentivizing this further than just like parties and little bonuses, but maybe, for example, you get to use that in your performance review. Maybe that's one of your KPIs each year that you can say, okay, all of my goals for my normal job are here, but from an employee advocacy perspective, I shared 20 times this year and I brought X amount of value to your business.
Right. So as opposed to making it mandatory, you make it desirable.
Exactly. Desirable and something that the employees can utilize for, benefit. If I can say, hey, I brought $20,000 of clicks and value to this company just from being an employee advocate, that should stand for something.
Yeah, definitely. And then you'll find probably some superstars emerging inside of that too.
Yeah, definitely.
like some super influencers, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah's saying, well, she said, good point, Desiree. Personal profiles versus company pages. Personal pages are more authentic than versus corporate speak, definitely.
Yeah.
And let me say welcome to some new people who are jumping on right now. Let me say welcome to Allison, throwing her bulbs up. Thank you, Allison, a faithful member of the Useful Content community. Let me say hello to Lorenzo as well, UCC Live, a faithful member of the Useful Content community too. And then we have Sebastian, who is out in Zurich, Switzerland. And Sebastian is not supposed to be up at this hour, but he's saying having employee influencer is probably the best described as the love child of marketing and HR. You need both of them to come together to create that amazing child. True or false?
Very true, extremely true. Because if it were just marketing, encouraging employees to share, but like I said, that HR and that culture perspective isn't there, they might not share what you want them to.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And Chelsea's saying, very insightful. Chelsea's out of Belize. Very insightful, Desiree. You are right. Having a good culture encourages employees to proudly share on company socials. This is true.
Yes.
So be better bosses, be better leaders, and people will
Exactly.
be, they wouldn't be shying away from sharing. I'm not sure if paying employees directly with cash to act as influencers is encouraging the right motivation. That's an interesting perspective. I think there are some companies, and tell me if I'm wrong or right, Desiree. There are some companies whose employees advocate on their own for free because they love the company so much.
Absolutely.
And I guess, I mean, I don't know if at that point you want to now come and say, well, let me give you some money for doing this. If that changes things, I don't know. What do you think?
I think you can get like a temperature check of your organization. For example, when you're rolling out a program, you can maybe do a pilot amongst, your sales team, right? Because maybe you want your sales to really be active on LinkedIn so they can find prospects and share more content. So really just getting a temperature check of like, okay, who are going to be my natural influencers? And maybe start with them. Maybe start with those employees that you know within your company that are always, happy to share and happy to take a photo and happy to do those things, and start with them and then seeing where that leads. And sometimes you'll find that you don't need to further encourage, whether it's like a monetization or some type of incentivization. And then sometimes you might say, okay, our employee engagement has taken a little bit of a dip. Maybe we run a contest this month specifically to do something like this. So it's going to be different per company.
Right. So from company to company. And I guess somebody like you would go in and will figure that out for people, like what might work the best way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So Sarah is saying, I don't think people in the Caribbean, because we're from the Caribbean, know how to use those tools as yet or even have access to them. I think they're available, but not knowing how to use them might be a thing, actually.
Yeah, and I think that the term employee advocacy, employee influencer, they're kind of used interchangeably. And, I think it's shifted a little bit more towards employee influencer because a lot of people know what influencers are now. But it's definitely something that's available and it's extremely beneficial to your business. I would say you would be surprised from a business perspective how much money you would save compared to traditional social media advertising. And it's definitely an avenue to explore.
Yeah. As Sarah's saying, employee influencers are going to need some proper training before companies let them loose with their brand. Definitely, I agree with that. Some people do it naturally and they stay within the bounds. Some people could go crazy. So you have to know what kind of people you have, I guess.
Yeah, I used to host like social media lunch and learns where I would invite people from the company to come and let's build their LinkedIn profile together. So I would ask everyone to come with their photo, maybe come with a tagline, and I would review maybe their about me's and things like that, just to kind of get them started, because you're going to find that not everyone is even across the board when it comes to using social media. You'll have some people that have already been on it and they're very comfortable with it, and maybe they just want to optimize it. But then you also have to create resources for those who are maybe starting from the bottom and they imagine they never use LinkedIn a day in their life. You still have to kind of keep that in mind and provide those resources to them.
Yeah, definitely. Make it easy for them to do the thing that is beneficial to the company.
Exactly.
Walk them through the process. We have a lot of comments, but we have to bring this segment to an end. Let me just go through these really quickly. What you're saying is really helpful to everyone, Desiree. So everybody's enjoying what you're saying. Chantal is saying, this is a very enlightening conversation. I leverage my role as an unofficial employee influencer to build my personal brand. And I guess you could do that as well, right? Yeah. I think it's a golden opportunity that many companies and organizations miss to promote their product and their work. And we could agree with that, yeah?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Right. That's cool. Do you have a recommendation for an employee advocate?
Yeah. So I will say my previous company was Everyone Social. They are an employee advocacy tool. I've used them. I've used, and I really, despite me having worked with them previously, I really do like their platform a lot when it comes to just visually how easy it is for employees to use. I've used platforms like Gaggle Amp and Social Chorus as well in the past. So
right. I think it was a mistake to take this AC off, by the way. It was such a mistake. Anyway, all right, Rollis, we can't get to all of your comments, everyone. We have to go into the other segment. We're already running 40 minutes. I know Desiree is dropping gems and we're just picking them up off the ground. We'll just take this last one here, right? It's saying, I did some work with a nurse YouTuber influencer that has over 260K followers, and she never mentioned the company she worked for. She kept separate. What do you think about that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's your company never owns your social media platforms. It's just if you're open to promoting them, all the best.
Right. That's true. All right, so we have to close off this segment. There are lots of comments. There are lots of things. Thank you so much, everybody, for engaging and asking so many excellent questions and so many excellent comments. But we must move on, otherwise we'll be here until midnight. And we want to let Desiree off the hook for the time that she's been giving us for. All right, so let's move on to the other segment called Agree, Disagree. This is a segment where we just make some statements and we'll see if Desiree agrees or disagrees. So let's run that segment right now. Yeah, just use that little thing to wipe my forehead, but clearly I didn't wipe it enough. All right, so let's do Agree, Disagree. Now, this segment is where I make some statements. Right, and these are general statements. These are not statements that I agree or disagree with. It doesn't reflect my personal preference. And you will tell me if you agree or disagree. Some of them are pertain to you personally.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so let's go in with agree, disagree, and maybe at the end we can come back around and deal with some of those other questions. Maybe at the end if we have time. All right. So agree, disagree with Desiree Tizon. Why am I getting your name wrong every single Desi with Desi? All right, let's do that. Agree, disagree. Agree, disagree, Desiree. Passion before skill.
Agree.
All right. Okay. I'm not gonna let you explain that one. That is usually a split. Some people say
yeah, I say agree because you can learn skills, but a natural passion just is such a great driver.
Okay, excellent. Okay, agree, disagree. Influence is more about personality than expertise.
I unfortunately agree. Because someone will listen to someone that they trust and that they like just due to their personality, not specifically because they're an expert in that field. I feel like being an expert is a plus, and that should be the driving force, but I just don't think it is.
Yeah, sadly, this is kind of true. On social media, a lot of times personality rules. I mean, you don't even have, I mean, I could say something and you could say the same exact thing, but your personality could be much more engaging than mine, and everyone will listen to you, and then they wouldn't listen to me because I am just not as engaging as you are.
Think about a celebrity who starts a skincare line. They know they're not scientists. They know nothing about being, all these chemicals and things that are going on your skin, but they created a line and they promote it and it does well because of their personality and people like them, not because they know exactly about all of the, different things going on your skin.
Yeah, definitely. It's true. And that is something that people do when they get popular. They bring out lines of clothing, of hair care, of skin care, of even drinks, alcoholic drinks, and people buy it up,
Yeah.
It's true. Okay. Agree, disagree. Company content is often easier to create than personal content.
Agree.
Hmm.
I think company content can be, for the most part, you have your brand messaging, and that shouldn't fluctuate or change too much. But sometimes personally, it could be a little bit difficult to create content. Something that I've done being a program manager for an employee advocacy tool was I did a prompt challenge. So each week I would say, for example, share on your LinkedIn what's your favorite part about working from home. The next week would be share insights into a little project that you're working on. Because sometimes people need that push of what they want to say personally. So I think it just takes a little bit more effort for people who aren't used to it. And that's why the company content, for the most part, you stick around the same brand messaging.
Yeah. I can see that working. Definitely. All right. Agree, disagree. Getting good at YouTube is harder than getting good at Instagram.
Disagree.
Oh, really?
I
Really?
think YouTube is easier than Instagram.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. YouTube hasn't changed its bread and butter. It's been long form video as long as your content is searchable and it has a long shelf life. So you could be getting views and be drawing traction from a YouTube video that you posted 3 years ago, and that could still be bringing you income. Whereas your Instagram posts aren't really searchable. They just now added a pinned feature where you can pin posts to the top of your profile. They now changed all video posts to now be reels. So if you're not familiar with reels, now you got to get on board. YouTube has changed incrementally over time, but I feel like Instagram, we've seen rapid change, which has been harder to keep up with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess Instagram's changes have been mainly driven by competition.
Exactly.
And so they are deathly afraid of TikTok. And so they've been trying to adapt in order to keep some of the people, because people have been moving.
It's funny. I feel like Instagram is trying to be like TikTok, and TikTok, now they're extending their length of their videos because TikTok is looking at YouTube.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
YouTube is still holding those people that are watching for 40 minutes. How do I get to increase my watch time like that?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that's a good strategy if companies try to be too many things. I don't know. I mean, YouTube has been YouTube. YouTube has actually just kind of gone backwards a little bit with shorts. But their main bread and butter, as you said, is long form video, you know.
And the good thing with shorts is that you can repurpose content, like we were saying in the beginning of the episode, is that whatever you're putting on TikTok, you don't have to go out of your way to do something different for YouTube Shorts. You can just put it on there too.
Yeah, Reels, Shorts, and TikTok videos. We're still limited to 1 minute in the Caribbean. Your Shorts longer in the US?
I don't know, because I think all the shorts that I've posted have been under a minute, so I'm not entirely sure if they've extended that.
Right. I hear you. All right, agree, disagree. Not everyone can be an influencer, but everyone has influence.
I believe everyone has influence, and so they are an influencer. Everyone is an influencer to me.
So synonymous. You think being an influencer and having influence is synonymous?
I do, because I think even if you influence one person, you're still an influencer.
All right. I think some people would disagree strongly with that. Not me, of course. I have no horse in this race. But I think actual people who want large numbers and who perceive influencing as being a particular type of thing would frown upon or even scoff at people who would call themselves influencers.
Well, for example, no one has ever defined an audience size for what an influencer means.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm considered a nano influencer, for example, on Instagram, because I have under 10,000 followers. But to the person who has, 150 followers, they're like, well, yeah, that's definitely an influencer. She has a ton of followers. But someone with 1 million, they're like, that girl's not an influencer. Who does she know? So I think it's all relative to me.
Right. Have you ever read the book Winfluence by Jason Falls?
I have not.
Yeah, he has a really good perspective on influencers. And he basically talks about, instead of influencer marketing, he talks about influence marketing. And that everyone has the ability to influence, not necessarily because of social media platforms, but because they can speak to a specific group of people in a persuasive way. And so when he was running his influencer programs, what he would do, especially for like local areas, he would go into the area, talk to the people, and find out who was the voice in that area that can move the people from point A to point B. And oftentimes those people did not even have social media followings. And so I agree with you from that perspective that, you know, you don't necessarily have to have a large social media following to be an influencer.
Definitely.
And very lastly, agree, disagree. On social media, you grow more from doing rather than consuming.
Agree.
Right. And that one, everybody agrees with that one. That's the, you know, that's the softball at the end. And thank you so much for playing Agree, Disagree, Desiree. And let's look at some of the comments here real quick before we come in for a landing. Oh, my goodness. Y'all are writing thesis in the comments here right now. Let me just, okay. Okay, so Sarah is saying, okay, I'm going to read through all of these, right? Real quick, right? Okay. Skills empowerment of the best way to grow. And my English is going crazy right now. Never use punishments as a form of encouragement. Okay, that's the point. True, agree. I can agree with that. And Sarah saying, and Desiree said it at the start, leaders leading by example. You can't expect staff to be sharing socially if managers and executive team aren't present on social media. You know? Yeah, it's true. It's true. And LinkedIn, my company tab, and life tab. And Rollis is saying, thanks, you. We haven't gone yet, Rollis. Juma turn on the AC. No, it's too late. Already sweating. It's terrible. You know, it's terrible. Everybody's in the sea. Oh gosh, I have no clue about YouTube, but IG is a lot of trial and error, and I believe easier to manage. So she's agreeing with you there.
So funny, really quick on that. Today, like I mentioned, I posted my first vlog in like 10 months, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get back out there. Like, I'm not gonna delay it anymore. I'm just gonna put this video on. And I was like, wow, everything's still the same. This is so nice. Like, I haven't posted in 10 months, but the platform is the same. I know exactly what I had to do. If I would have taken 10 months off from Instagram, completely different.
You'd be wondering, what is this?
Exactly. What are reels?
You know, it's true. It's true. And lastly, Sarah said, everyone is an influencer, whether they believe it or not. Really, really great. So thank you so much, Desiree, for sharing with us. Where can people find you if they want to know more about you or they want to find out what you do?
Sure. So on LinkedIn, you can connect with me, Desiree Tizon. I will throw it out there. I am open to work at the moment. So if you would like to connect, please go ahead and connect with me. And then as a content creator and influencer across all my social media channels, you can find me at Desi Does It, also DesiDoesIt.com.
DesiDoesIt.com, right? Also on YouTube too. I mean, you could Desi Does It. How did you come up with that, by the way?
So my name back when I, like middle school, high school, used to be Desi is dope. Like, I'm from New York, everything's dope. And so as I grew older and I decided that I wanted to be an influencer, I was like, okay, if I want to work with like a Target or a Whole Foods, would they want to work with someone that has the word dope in their name? Some people, you know, some people could see it as, you know, controversial or whatever the case is. And so I didn't want to limit myself to being a hair influencer or a travel vlogger or things like that. I feel like I have a lot of different interests and I like to be able to share those on my platform. So Desi Does It was just something that can grow with me, because no matter what I do, I can still be Desi Does It.
I like it. I think it's cool. I think I like it. You know?
Thank you. It was definitely a good move.
And it was available on all platforms. So, you know, there you go.
It wasn't. I had to actually buy it from someone.
For real?
Yeah, I want to say the Instagram was taken, and I reached out to the girl and I wrote like a little contract, and I think I paid her like $200 at the time. And I was like, please, like, I have this vision, and it ended up working out.
Oh, okay. How many followers did she have?
She had like 900.
Okay, all right. So it was a sacrifice. I guess it was worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it in the long run. And now I own everything. So hopefully.
Nice. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much, community, for tuning up and for supporting us. And Desi does it right. There's a hashtag
Thank you,
now.
Sebastian.
For tuning up and supporting us. Thank you, Desiree, for coming on and for sharing with us about employee influencers. And we were so happy to have you on. And we, let's just say, one last thing. What what's here? So okay, that's another thing. So bye everyone. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.